So I made this video a year ago, and looking back on it, I actually regret it massively. And there are many things wrong with this video, and today I want to take the time to actually break down what I would do differently if I were to react to this Reddit post again. The main point that I want to discuss further from this Reddit post is the following. CS better and don't die is lazy, outdated advice. The game has changed, and instead of telling someone to focus on the fundamentals, encourage others to master high-level concepts such as reading a game state, macro, and champion interactions. Now, look, I want to have a grown-up conversation here. No bullshit, and explain how I truly feel based off my experiences coaching below gold clients over the past 8 months inside of my mid-lane school program. The reality of the before mentioned quote is that it's incredibly loaded. There are many points being made, and each of which lead into interesting discussions. The first one that I actually want to cover here today is that I actually agree that CSing better and not dying is indeed lazy, outdated advice. And to be clear, it's not that these things aren't effective, it's just that they're not pragmatic even in the slightest. What does it actually mean to CS better? How does one actually CS better? There are many reasons why one might not have good quality CSing. They might have poor wave management, therefore having poor wave states so they actually can't reach the wave. They may not understand how to layer minions. They may not have champion mastery, therefore they don't have the mental stack or the mental capacity to CS and trade. Maybe they're dying to ganks, taking bad trades, resulting in getting zoned from the wave or straight up just dying and losing CS. Maybe they're taking poor resets, resulting in lost waves under the tower. Maybe they don't understand how tower damage works with minions, so they're just losing CS under tower. The list goes on. The same applies to not dying. Even in my game, I was doing many little things to not die in that video. To effectively not die while doing your job in a game requires many things, such as good quality threat assessment, a freed up mental stack such that I can be aware of my surroundings, an understanding of what all the champions do and their threat onto me and what all the items do, what all the power spikes mean, a good understanding of trading patterns and spacing so that I can actually stay healthy in the lane phase. The list goes on yet again. This flows onto something that I've noticed inside of the league coaching field is that there is a very real lack of pragmatic advice. The reason for this is that high-level players and high-level coaches do indeed understand what you need to do to climb, but they don't really understand how you should go about executing it and learning it in an efficient way. This is because the people, myself included, didn't learn these skills that they are teaching the way you guys are learning it. Coaches didn't exist when we played. We didn't have all of this educational content. We just learnt by playing thousands and thousands of games over years and years and years. But we have to remember the goal of coaching is that one doesn't have to play for thousands and thousands and thousands of games over many years because that's not replicable for the average person. We can learn in a more efficient way. In other more sophisticated industries in sports, for example basketball, we not only understand the skill to develop to have success, but we understand the mechanism behind the way it works and how to effectively teach it step by step. In League, because the game lacks the ability to isolate skills and we can't drill things, coaches often find themselves just defaulting to giving generalized and lazy advice. The intent behind the advice is good, but it can often confuse the clients. I will say that coaches can actually get away with giving lazy advice because the game naturally rewards playing with intensity anyway. You can play with a poor process and poor learning objectives and still improve and climb due to building intuition naturally. I've had many clients actually join my program and automatically climb without even receiving a coaching session due to them actually just taking the game more seriously. So coaches are often rewarded behind the scenes for poor coaching practices and therefore aren't incentivized to actually push the envelope and actually continue to innovate and grow because there are some clients out there that are actually naturally getting results regardless. Now, this doesn't happen for everyone, but even if it happens to 20% of the clients, that can be enough to influence the behavior of an individual due to ego reasons. So what has actually worked for me in terms of helping clients specifically with the above mentioned skills? Well, for example, let's take CSing. If someone was struggling with CSing, I need to get granular. Look at the miss CS. What specifically led to the miss CS? Was it because they weren't layering the minions? Was it because the wave was in a bad location? Or did they not really understand what the enemy champion did so that they were overly defensive and getting zoned from the wave? All of these are easier to fix when we understand the root cause. Once we've identified the root cause, we can direct attention towards it in the game or the review. And look, this ties into a deeper discussion about in-game and out-of-game learning objectives, but we're not going to be covering this today. The second point of this, Reddit post that I want to talk about is the second half of the quote touches on the idea that fundamentals aren't overly important and instead other more sophisticated concepts need to be taught instead. I actually agree, but for a differing reason. Since coaching below gold and actually seeing what it's really like, I've actually realized that fundamentals are not the priority. And fundamentals overall in the coaching industry and the educational sphere on YouTube, it's a bit of a buzzword. And it's not because they aren't significant, it's because other things are actually more important. And this is something that I've only realized over the past 8 months. My personal philosophy based over this past 8 months working with below gold clients is that the bedrock of the game is actually champion mastery. Champion mastery comes before fundamentals. Coaches forget that fundamentals are only significant once the client has a total understanding of their champion, as well as all of the other champions in the game. I believe that a lot of low-level or low elo players are sold this narrative that they must, in order to climb, they must have great wave management, great resets, warding and leaning, all of this stuff to climb. But in the process of working on all of this stuff, they forget that the real big stuff lies in actually trading well, fighting well, playing in accordance to your champion's identity, and knowing how your champion fundamentally interacts with all of these other champions. Once you have around 60 plus games on your champion and you understand how to think as your champion, you understand what the mindset of your champion is, then the fundamentals can play an important part, but that comes later on. To get even more specific, not every fundamental is even important. The fundamentals you should emphasize depend on the champion you play. For example, if you play Malzahar, wave management wouldn't really be that important, whereas on Victor, it would be important. If you played Echo, trading would be extremely important, whereas warding maybe not so much. If you play Pantheon, roaming and side lane awareness is crucial, but it definitely isn't for Annie. My philosophy is that the champ specifics must always come first. Once I work on the champ specifics with the client, then and only then can we dive into the fundamentals in a particular order catered to that champion. This is also the reason I spend a lot of time making YouTube guides and we create in-depth guides for my MLS approved champions inside my MLS program. Now, the third point that I want to talk about is that a systemic problem inside the league community is that the difficulty of the game is severely underemphasized. Although his post was indeed filled with many incorrect assumptions, the underlying idea that League is harder than most coaches or high elo players believe is actually extremely relevant. If you are an average platinum player, you have probably played thousands of games across many seasons. The amount of time required to get to this level is incredible, we just don't appreciate it. The common and dangerous mistake that is actually made is that a person who's casually played the game with friends for say 5 years will say things just like, don't die, CS well, pick OP champions, you'll climb easy, don't worry. Little does that person know is that they have actually an incredibly sophisticated intuition filled with insane amounts of muscle memory. They can CS, trade, space, lean, and think about what's happening on the river, even if they aren't doing it consciously. They are intuitively making these decisions based on pure pattern recognition and muscle memory. The general public has little to no respect for the muscle memory they themselves have developed, therefore leading to this short-sighted view on the difficulty of the game. If you have not played hundreds upon hundreds of hours of League, nor had a sophisticated gaming background, you will struggle to even do the basics of the game consistently. And this is one of the major places I went wrong in the video, horribly wrong indeed, and why I regret making the video so much. My intention was pure, and I wanted to show the significance of not dying and having good CS and why we don't need to do crazy things to be impactful in a game, but in doing so, I actually disrespected the difficulty of the game and confused many people who are actually inside this elo bracket. By me running around the map, CSing well and not dying and saying I was quote unquote keeping it simple, I was actually doing many things invisibly. I was beautifully tethering, exemplifying beautiful high-level threat assessment, perfectly executing fights with a great understanding of my limits and abusing my expanded mental stack to be aware of my surroundings. I was making lower level or lower elo players feel even worse about their rank and likely leaving them feeling even more confused. No content should be made in low elo from a high level player because there is too much deeply embedded muscle memory for one to properly show what is going on. The disconnect between a beginner and an advanced player is way too big. Any future content I make about the below gold elo bracket will be done through the footage of an actual below gold gameplay, like the one we're playing throughout this video. So I want to formally apologize to the writer of this post and the viewers of my before video. And although there were some misconceptions on his behalf, I can totally see where he's coming from, and he raises actually many important points that me as a coach need to actually address. Rather than ridiculing the people with misunderstandings, the coaches of the industry must take the time to actually explain why they feel that way. I hope this video sheds a little light with where I'm at in regards to this topic. Otherwise, good luck with your split, and you'll see me for another video soon. Cheers.